We're covering the Paighton Houston case. This is the young girl that went missing in Trussville, Alabama. This is a very community-driven area. They're very successful when it comes to supporting each other, these small mom and pop businesses. It's just a beautiful place. And it's a suburb just outside of Birmingham, Hoover, Alabaster, all those areas right in there. About the same area kind of that the Nia Blanchard was coming out. Guys, Paighton Houston, she lived with her family in Trussville, Alabama, and was last seen at the Tin Roof Bar on the 2700 block of 7th Avenue South in Birmingham, and that was around 10:45 p.m. that evening, Friday. So Miss Paighton was hanging out at the Tin Roof with a few co-workers, and apparently around 10:45 she left the place with two heavy-set men. So one of those men happened to be Fredrick Hampton, which we'll cover in a little bit. And that was discovered by investigators because the co-workers really didn't seem to understand where she was going and why. Interesting, really. So here she is. She's with a group of co-workers or friends at the Tin Roof Bar, and she walks out the door with two men that nobody knows who they are. And according to what we know right now, she left willingly with these men, but that kind of changes later. 29-year-old Paighton was last seen wearing ripped blue jeans, a coral-colored t-shirt, and blue Converse sneakers when she left that tin roof that night. She also sported tattoos on both of her arms, and her left arm she has the word strength with a G placed in a semicolon and an arrow underneath it. So on the right arm near the wrist, Houston had a tattoo with the word faith, and that's according to friends. Now what we're learning is that Paighton had actually sent multiple messages to her co-worker, and that text was sent around 12:15 a.m. in the morning, so that would be late that night or early in the morning of December 21st. But the co-worker did not see any of these messages until several hours later, which rounded off to an approximate time of 12:15 a.m. of December 21st. So according to what we know right now and seeing what these the timestamps on these messages is that she was gone for several hours before anybody really knew that she was sending messages and saying that she was in trouble. So a lot of people were asking about the security cameras in the area. Now there was a security camera, and I want to mention this so I don't forget, at the Tin Roof Bar, but later when police actually go through that surveillance camera, they say that they're not able to really find anyone that fits that description, which means most likely whoever said, told them who she left with, they didn't know exactly what they looked like in the first place. So here you have a girl that is with a strange man. According to them, there was two men involved, which makes you wonder, guys. Hopefully, if they seen two men, what's going on with this? Is this two men might have picked her up, then took her to somewhere else? I mean, that's something police need to look into, because there is a such thing as trafficking where people go out and actually hunt for other people. At 12:15, she had sent a text message that said, "I don't know who I'm here with, so call. If I call, please answer. I feel and as you guys know, I have done these videos for a while now. I'm just over a year of having this channel. And my videos are about sending, awareness. And I wish that people would share this channel so that the young women out there can understand the danger that they face out there these days. Yes, we've always had issues throughout humanity, but they seem to have gotten worse this decade. And the one thing is, make sure you do go with friends that pay attention, and you let your friends know where you're going and who you're going with and what time to expect you back. So I put a few things up. Guys, sex trafficking and things like that is at a whole all-time high, and it's changing, it's evolving, and we're really not aware of the new things that they're doing out there when they're abducting people. And this is what I'm warning a lot of people, especially when you go out. Please do not communicate with a stranger, and if they're being pushy, you better learn to stand your ground and don't worry about hurting people's feelings, because your safety comes first. Okay, guys, so Sergeant Johnny Williams with the Birmingham Police Department said investigators have reviewed the surveillance video, which I mentioned earlier, from that bar where Paighton Houston was last seen, and have not found anyone matching that description of the two men she was believed to have left with. So how did Paighton's family find out that she was missing? So the co-workers at that point, when they seen that text, they ended up calling her parents and her family to let them know what was going on. They let the family know that these text messages that they got seemed to be legitimate concerns. And at that point, the family decided they needed to call the police, which I'm glad, but I wish this would have happened sooner. An investigation starts off, and we hear that there's really not any leads or development off of any information that the investigators have retained. But guess what? We learned later that week that investigators basically did have somebody that they were looking into. And that was actually kind of curious to find out later. They had somebody of interest, but we didn't know about it at the time. And in an email William wrote, a number of persons have been interviewed at this time, but no major leads had developed from the information. He said officers are still trying to track down two men and are continuing to ask for the public's help. So it ended up, the fact that these co-workers really didn't have solid information ended up throwing them off. Somehow, though, the police did find a person of interest, and that person was named Fredrick Hampton. But before we go over his information, we need to remember that they started putting out rewards for credible information on Houston's case, and they were telling people, if you come forward, you don't have to talk to police. You don't have to do anything. You just need to wait about a week in order to get your reward. And let me tell you guys, this case has been tip driven, mostly, as far as I can tell through my research anyway. And guys, we just had that case with Anaya Blanchard. Christmas is coming up. This was just horrible. There was another girl missing as well, but I haven't had time to look up who the other girl was. So meanwhile, while Houston says his parents and his family continued to hope for the best, which is her brother, and they sent out social media messages like this one. It says, quote, Paighton, we are looking for you. We are not going to stop until we find you. If you know anything about Paighton or where she is and the investigation, please come forward. Drop her off. We just need to have my sister back, end quote. Meanwhile, Paighton's mother is reaching out to the public, describing what her daughter looks like and sending out the pictures. She says her daughter has curly hair, but she also wears it straight. And then the police started also sharing details of how to identify Paighton if you've seen her, saying that she was 5'2" tall and weighed about 123 pounds, and giving you the location of where she was and all kinds of other things. But at this point, we find out later in this story that there is a chance that most likely Paighton was alive during the beginning of this investigation. So the very first 24 hours into, maybe a little bit over 24 hours, they suspect that she was still alive. And they also have Fredrick Hampton not in custody, but in for questioning. So Hampton was initially held in Birmingham City Jail on a 48-hour extension on a suspicion of a kidnapping beginning Saturday, December 28th. But get this, guys, he was released 2 days later, so right at Christmas Eve, because investigators did not have enough to charge him with any crime. This didn't make sense to me, simply because he hadn't reported his last address, is what I heard. Because we find out that Fredrick Hampton is a sex offender. But guys, before I go into that, I want to say on December 31st, the family posted this, and this was heartbreaking. So before I do that, I want to read over a post that the family made for Paighton, and this is on Christmas morning, and they said that Christmas morning was hard. We all were so excited for you to open your presents that we all got you. It's hard seeing your presents still under the tree, just waiting for you. We're waiting for you. We know you are smart, strong, determined young woman. Through, sorry guys, lost my place right there. So through prayers of protection, we will help you bring you home. Jeremiah 29:12 says, "Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. Wherever you are, God is listening to you and protecting you. I have asked myself a million times, why is this happening? Why you? But I'm not going to doubt my God. He has a plan, and I trust him with all my heart. Through him, I have hope, faith, and strength. And so do you, Paighton. We all love and miss you so much. Everyone, just please keep sharing and praying." Could you imagine going through the holidays with your daughter missing like that? And they pushed through anyways. I mean, they still had Christmas, it sounds like, but it was hard seeing those presents unopened underneath the tree. I couldn't imagine. Now, we did hear nothing on the news, that is certain. We had no idea that they were looking into this guy named Fredrick Hampton. But let me tell you something. When we did finally hear that they located Paighton Houston at a house that was in a rural area, we had still not heard the name of Fredrick Hampton. Sorry guys, I had the hiccups. So when they were investigating this house, and this was through a tip that they got, there was a post on social media from her mother again. Charlene Houston had posted a Bible verse, Isaiah 40:31, on Facebook hours just before the news broke that they had actually located Paighton Houston at this house in a shallow grave. Okay guys, so I'm doing this on the go, so forgive anything in the background. So Paighton Lane Houston, the woman who had actually been missing for 2 weeks, that disappeared from Birmingham, was found in a Hueytown home, like I mentioned, in a shallow grave. We did not find out anything much when they did find her. They didn't know the cause of death. We didn't know anything. We did get a few details that were released, and authorities said that Houston's body was intact. They found Paighton wrapped in a fabric, and this was a home of somebody had recently, an elderly person that had gone to a assisted living or nursing home. So police secured the area, and they found her behind this home on Chapel Drive. As news broke, we still didn't have a connection or a reason as to how she got there. In a Facebook post the day after her daughter's body was located and found in a shallow grave behind that home in Hueytown, the mother wrote, "Our family didn't get the news we had hoped for, but I am very grateful that Paighton is coming home. We don't have to go through the torture of not knowing what was happening to her and where she could be. God answered our prayers. He brought her home to us." She continued saying, "I pray that if she was already in heaven, I just have to know so in my heart, so I could put closure to this missing nightmare." Paighton is eternally home with Jesus. Our family appreciates all the prayers, love, and support from the Trustville community and around the world for Paighton. So the family was very appreciative of all the support, and this story did go international. So still on January 3rd, we found out more information as the day went on that the 29-year-old Houston, when she was found Friday, she was wrapped in sheets. And we got the full address, and it was 215 Chapel Drive. The very next day, the family was having to set up plans to lay to rest their beloved family member. And on this next day, on January 4th, if I can think, the family hung yellow ribbons down Main Street. And the community really come together to help this family out during this horrible, stressful time in their life. So the family come together and they planned to lay her to rest, and they started, I think it was January 9th, from 5 to 7 at the Clear Branch United Methodist Church in Trustville. They had a viewing, and the very next day, January 10th, they had Houston's funeral at 11 a.m. at the church. And it was a very beautiful memorial and ceremony that they had for Paighton Houston. She was laid to rest at Jefferson Memorial Gardens in Trustville. So authorities said Thursday on January 16th, they decided that they would give us some information of what was going on basically in a person of interest. And I think this is because he took off and went on to run. So at that point, they really needed the public's help. Police put his face out to the public and asked. It didn't seem like they were asking too hard, though. That's what I was kind of concerned about, the fact that they wouldn't really push in his face like they should. They said that he is not charged with killing Houston, but additional charges are possible once the full autopsy of Paighton Houston is complete. Investigators also said that there was no physical trauma to the body of Paighton that would have led to her death. This ended up, causing more questions for the public. What in the world happened to her? Some people suspecting that maybe she was drugged. But we won't know until the complete report comes back, and that can take up to 7 weeks. So we were told that on December 12th of 2019, Deputy Chef David Agee said that, that they did have evidence that Fredrick and Paighton were together that night. They also give us some information that she might have been alive for a period of time the next day. What we also learned is that he actually did have a criminal history background, which we'll go over now. Anyway, so his criminal records date back to a little bit right at 1989, where at 20 he was found guilty of a traffic violation and carrying a pistol without a permit. Just a few years later, Hampton was arrested and charged with rape and sodomy. He was found guilty of rape and sodomy and sentenced to 20 years, 6 months in prison. According to the Alabama Department of Corrections, Fredrick Hampton had served 20 years, 5 months, and 26 days before finally being released on March of 2012. January 15th of 2020, we hear the sheriff, he has a press conference and tells us a little bit more. And the guy Fredrick still remains free as far as we go into January 16th and 17th. Authorities said on Thursday, January 16th, that Hampton is a registered sex offender, but is not being charged with the killing of Houston. However, additional charges are possible once Houston's full autopsy report is complete. I want to make sure that I repeat this, guys, that they did say that they did not find any physical trauma to the body of the victim that led to her death. They're saying that they do have evidence that the victim, the offender, they were together on the night of December 20th and also the 21st of December. Today I'm making this video on January 18th of 2020, and they still have not found or located Fredrick Hampton. However, investigators say that they're still looking for Hampton, and they believe that he might have fled to Georgia. So if you're in the Georgia area, please share his face, share this video. And the fact that he is a sex offender. Listen, there are more than 800,000 registered sex offenders just in the United States alone. So this is a huge problem, and even now it's becoming such a concern that on holidays like Halloween, there has been sheriffs that they see this stuff every single day. And there was a sheriff, I can't remember where the story come from, where he actually put signs in the yard of sex offenders on Halloween night for kids that are trick-or-treating, warning them not to go to that house. Do you know that that sheriff ended up being sued? Only in America, a sex offender has more rights than our children. Now, here's the part where we talk about it. We're hearing from the co-workers that they believe that they seen Paighton leave with two heavy-set men. And here we are, the only face that we're seeing is Fredrick Hampton. Something just doesn't seem right with that to me. And the fact that they seen two people, they seem pretty sure that they seen two people. And this is also concerning. So, we were dealing with Anaya Blanchard. Remember, we were hearing, and we were thinking there was more than one person involved with that as well. And for some reason, this area likes to protect their criminals. Remember, Anaya's, the suspect in that case, he had actually just been arrested for prior charges of kidnapping, accused of it anyways. And he was released on bond, and then he went and abducted Anaya. He is from the Montgomery area, which is all the outskirts of Birmingham. And remember, guys, I had mentioned that this area seems to be very lenient with people like Fredrick Hampton, Yazid, who was accused and soon to be on trial for the disappearance and the murder of Anaya Blanchard. Now remember, guys, I told you guys that I did some research and found out that Alabama is ranked to be one of the most corrupt states in the United States. And so a lot of people had concerns as to why and how these people are able to continue to prey upon victims, innocent people, especially sex offenders. I believe that if you are accused at least twice, a sex offender, especially with children, that you should be wearing a bracelet so that police are able to monitor your every move. They should not be allowed to go to bars or any public place where it's usually an environment for picking up people that are single. They should also not be allowed to be around places like parks, McDonald's, anywhere there are children. And you find children, they love to play. I mean, anything with a park, daycare, any of those things. So we really do need to start pumping up our security, especially with sex offenders. Now, this case had a lot in common with the Savannah Spurlock case. If you are not familiar with the Savannah Spurlock case, please, like I said, check out my older videos. You will you'll be actually devastated to see how similar this is, because Savannah Spurlock went out to a bar which was in Kentucky. It was college. where college kids hang out mostly. It's called the Other Bar. She was seen leaving with 3 men. But somehow, even though she left with 3 men, only one of those men ended up being charged. Odd. So here you have Paighton Houston. She is seen leaving with supposedly 2 men. Right now, we only have 1 man of interest. That makes no sense. And we definitely need to put out, make people afraid to do these type of things. And we can't do that if we're allowing other people who are involved with these cases but aren't actually doing the part where they take their life or whatever. They need to be afraid to be even nearly remotely close to somebody that is that evil. In other words, if they are in that group of men that are hunting women that are vulnerable or easy to manipulate, and something bad happens to that girl, they too need to be looked into a little bit harder, at least put some fear into those people. It just worries me because we know that these women are being hunted. And I have taken time to talk to a few women that go out to these bars now, and they mention that when they go out to these bars, that some of these men are very, very pushy. And for weak women who are afraid to hurt people's feelings or something like that, or they're kind of gullible, this is dangerous. I mean, what are these guys that are sex offenders doing in a bar around people's daughters, especially? I can't say it enough, and I hope that you talk to your daughters, your friends, and tell them, say, look, if you're single women, you're going out there, you got to be more aware, and my God, do not hook up with strangers for any reason, whether it be for a joint, whatever reason it is. Don't do it. Reason why I say that is some people suspect that maybe perhaps that she was, trying to get a hold of something and it didn't work out for her. The fact that Paighton Houston actually sent a message out, and 2 hours later people realize she's saying, I think I might be in trouble, and still we weren't able to help her before it was too late. That is kind of scary. So if you go out with your friends or whatever, keep a close eye on them. Don't let them walk off with strangers. If they do walk off with a stranger, make sure that you call them over and over and over again. And do not be afraid if ever you feel threatened to hit somebody where it counts and run. Now, before I forget, I want to make sure I say, guys, share that guy's face, Fredrick Hampton. He's still on a run. They seem to think that he's hiding out in Georgia or heading there. Well, I can tell you it's over 24 hours. He could be anywhere right now. So share it everywhere. Share it, anywhere and everywhere you can. Tell your friends about this guy. Hopefully they can catch him pretty soon. Now, usually, guys, I find their Facebook or something and I'm able to get some extra pictures. I haven't had time to really find his Facebook, so I apologize for that. I can't find anything on him. However, we have had a few people claim that they've seen him or met him before. I'm not certain if it's true or not. And they said that the guy was kind of creepy. And one person said she met him through a dating site. So, guys, dating sites, you really need to be careful with those. All I can say is we're lucky that were able to find Paighton as quick as they did. Hopefully the investigators will be able to come to a conclusion with the autopsy pretty soon, and they will find this guy and lock him up behind bars so he cannot ever do this again to anybody else. Now, I would like to ask you guys, even if you don't live in the Alabama area, that you write those leaders there and tell them that you would like to see better precautions, especially with sex offenders. That we want people that have especially had been charged before for something like kidnapping, rape, anything like that, that they not be released on bond if they ever come across another charge. Okay, God knows that one of these things that should have been prevented was the Anaya Blanchard. Definitely. Okay, guys, so I've been doing this while trying to do something else, so I hope it's not too horribly mixed up. But I do appreciate you guys caring about these stories and checking it out. And we do care about all these girls, and that's why we do it. All right, guys, I'll see you guys soon. I got a few things I've got to get done. Bye-bye.